Hey, this is Silverpaw Reads, and today I'm reading Sontails Dreams Come True by Two-Tailed Fox. If you'd like, he has a YouTube channel where he has read this story himself. You can also check out his profile on fanfiction.net to check out a couple other stories he's done. They're all pretty great. Anyways, let's get started. Chapter 1, Growing Feelings. Mobius, a strange, lonely, celestial body floating alone in the vastness of space, with naught but a nearby sun and moon for company. The planet forged when hot molten rocks collided and cooled, forming the earthly crust around the lava core, had gradually created life. The early inhabitants of the planet learnt, grew, and evolved over many years, adopting new technologies and ways of life. Seas rose and fell, and the creatures of Mobius formed small communities together. As the lands changed, 4 main continents towered above the vast oceans with only small, sparse islands to bridge the wide gaps. Years, decades, and even centuries passed as the inhabitants slowly grew, changed, and expanded. Many civilizations fell and were destroyed until only one continent held life anymore. Since it was the only inhabited landmass, the continent was simply named Mobius. Mobius's inhabitants prospered together in 5 major communities: the avian birds of the Aves, the cyborg machines of Macton, the plant-like creatures of Zunkan, and the aquatic animals of Vapos and Mobius, where mammals and many species came together to live at the capital. However, throughout the years, one thing stood the test of time: the world religion that every Mobian abided by, Mobianity. Created as far back as even the oldest history book in the great libraries could tell, the Old Testaments and rules of the land were written, and every creature, big or small, lived their life by these rules. Of the 7 Mobian commandments, one was thought more important than even those about theft and murder. The sacred bonds of love shall be forged between a man and a woman. Over 100 years ago, the Great Mobian War waged across the continent as a warlord from Mobius, fueled by the spirit of the Mobian deity, Chaos, tried to take back the land in Chaos's name after their sacred commandment was broken by 2 possessed by Iblis. After 10 years of fighting, the other 4 communities banded together to try and defeat him, but it ended in mutual destruction. The only way peace was found was when all the communities created specific borders, and peace would only be retained if they were never, ever crossed. The borders of Aves, Zunkan, Vapos, Macton, and of course Mobius. Rouge the Bat, the 10th grade history teacher, put down her whiteboard marker and spoke softly. That's the end of history class today. The bell rang out and all the children shot out and filed out of the room as quickly as their legs could take them. The first one out of this room, as always, was a cobalt blue hedgehog. His fur the color of sapphire and eyes like shining emeralds. He was a strange, being the only blue hedgehog, but rather than everyone making fun of him, they all respected him. However, that was most likely because of his amazing, unbeatable speed. He could run faster than anybody else at the school, and for seemingly an infinite amount of time without getting tired. He sped out of class and down the hallway to his locker as quick as he could, carried by muscled legs. Girls sighed dreamily as he flashed past them, papers aflurry in the air in his wake. At the other end of the line slumped a small golden-furred, twin-tailed fox. He always brought up the back of the line, not because he was one of the slowest runners at the school, but because he was the only one of the children that enjoyed class. Miles Prower, called Tails due to the birth defect that gave him a second tail beside his first, was a small, shy boy who was one of the smartest kids in the school. It was his intellect that allowed him to move up a grade and become a sophomore despite only just turning 15. He hated school. Everyone picked on him, made fun of him, and none of the girls liked him. There was only one positive side. He got to spend every day in the same class as his best friend, Sonic. "Hey Tails, hurry up! I want to try out that new game when we get home," Sonic bellowed, sprinting up to his best friend, backpack slung lazily around one shoulder, already packed. "But I haven't even gotten my homework yet," Tails sighed, always ashamed that he couldn't keep up with his speedy friend. The two walked side by side down the long hallway, dodging through the sea of faces who squirmed to the front doors of the school. "I got you covered," Sonic smirked, holding up Tails' backpack, already packed and stuffed with every textbook that Sonic could fit in. "I didn't know which books you needed, so I just put them all in." Tails took the backpack thankfully, but almost collapsed to the floor with how heavy it was. The... Tails began, but before he could even utter a single word, Sonic grabbed his arms and raced out of the school, dragging the complaining Fox behind him. The two ran well. Sonic ran, and Tails tried desperately to keep up, not willing to tell his friend of the most excruciating pain that he felt in his arm, as if it was almost being pulled out of its socket. As he stumbled agonizingly behind him, he moaned as his legs felt like they were burning. "Not so fast, you're hurting me," Tails wailed finally. Sonic stopped suddenly and looked back. His emerald eyes shone with anticipation. "Sorry, bud," he said. "I'm just so excited to get to play this new game with you." "But your house is that way," Tails pointed out down the street. Sonic stopped and rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "I was kind of thinking we could play it at yours. You got the game with me, and I know you have the system." "I don't see why not," Tails replied skeptically. "But... awesome, let's go," Sonic cried with glee as he sped off again. Tails smirked, shaking his head before he rushed off again, panting with each step. It was only a few hundred meters away, but each step was harder than the last. It wasn't until Tails finally made it up the front steps of his house that he let himself collapse from exhaustion on his front porch. "You really need to start working out with me more, buddy." Sonic laughed as he helped Tails back up on his feet and removed his backpack. Tails fished into his pocket of his beige chinos and inserted it into the lock. As soon as the door creaked open, Sonic raced through and up the stairs to his room. "Hi, Miss Prower," Sonic called as he skipped steps at a time with long bounds. "Hey, Sonic," Rosemary scratched her head, still surprised at how fast he could be. "He never slows down, does he?" "Nope, no he doesn't." Tails laughed as he gave his mother a quick hug, slipped off his shoes, and walked up the stairs to join Sonic. He plunked down on his bed next to Sonic and leaned back, letting cooling oxygen to enter his lungs, as Sonic bent down and began to fiddle with the console, the television, and the many tangled wires. Tails sighed contentedly as he lay back and watched Sonic struggle, laughing silently when Sonic cursed the knots in the wires he struggled to untangle. For some time now, ever since their summer camping trip, Tails had realized his true feelings. He always knew they were there, deep down, but it was only recently that these feelings had properly manifested themselves. Tails couldn't hide it any longer. He was in love, but he couldn't tell Sonic. He was like an older brother, his best friend. What if Sonic thought it was disgusting and disowned Tails for feeling that way? Not only that, the others could never find out. One of the oldest Mobian rules forbade it. It was a sacred vow and one that was never broken. It had only been publicly broken once, and that led to a 10-year war. It was too risky to act on these feelings. As hard as it was to hide his feelings deep down, Tails knew he had to do it. However, he couldn't stop them from growing wilder and wilder, slowly consuming his entire being. "Why do I agree to go on that stupid summer trip?" Tails thought to himself, remembering the events again in his head. "You alright, buddy?" Sonic's voice cut through the daydream, and Tails opened his eyes. Sonic was standing up, cradling two controllers. "You kinda zoned out there for a second." "Yeah, Sonic, just a bit tired," he said, his cheeks slowly turning a slight tinge of crimson. Sonic just laughed it off. "I hope you're not too tired to play the new game." "It's gonna be awesome," he yelled enthusiastically, punching the air with his fist as he switched on the console. Tails loved how childish Sonic could be sometimes. He breathed happily, ready to spend the whole afternoon playing video games, alone with his best friend. He smiled to himself. Alone, he thought. How lucky he was to be able to spend so much time alone with Sonic, the unfortunate love of his life. If only Tails knew what kind of trouble his feelings could get him into. If only he knew what unfortunate course his love would pave for him. If Tails could read the future, he might have kicked himself right then and there. But then again, love makes you do crazy things, as Tails will soon find out.